speaker today is Judith Stevens of the A.R.E. Your reputation precedes you. I've been an A.R.E. member for over 40 years, and I remember when I first started hanging around there, one of the names I would see posted everywhere was Judith Stevens. Judith has been a student of the Cayce reading since 1968. She's been manager of the Worldwide Study Group program and has served in many other capacities as well. She founded the A.R.E.'s Prison Outreach program back in 1972, and she's currently the National Outreach Volunteer Coordinator, soon to become international. I think that around 80% of the people who attend the fellowship also hang around the A.R.E. So, please welcome Judith Stevens.
Okay, it feels like homecoming to me to be here today because I look around the room and I see so many old dear friends and new friends. And I want to start with a little poem by Rumi, if I may. It's titled Gnostic Donkeys. And this is just a little piece of it. Love is bringing everyone by the ear to a place where reason cannot go, where the night grows quiet. Truth does not sleep, sunlight does not go away. The stars are suns. God is everywhere. So many of you who've come to the A.R.E., as I did in '68, have looked at the bulk of readings, almost 15,000. And I look at them in 4 categories or 4 themes. One of them is medical testimonials. Over 9,000 of the readings were given for people with physical challenges or ailments. Many of them got well, even though they'd been given up by their doctors. The second is past life experiences and how they contribute to right now. So I was brought up in the Baptist church. I never knew the word reincarnation until I went to the A.R.E. But you know what? It made sense to me. I didn't believe it. I recognized it. I think that our past lives can inform our present. Third, seeing religion as a practical source of healing. That's really what it was intended to be, not what it has somehow turned into in some areas. And fourth, what I plan to talk about today, to me, is maybe the most important, the imperative to seek our own spiritual connection to God and our own spiritual development. We're impelled to do that. So, I'm calling this talk A Gift to the World. Exactly 94 years ago today, and when my friend Bruce called me up and asked me if I'd come down and talk, I said, what are the dates? And he gave me a whole list of dates. One of them leapt off the page to me, today. So what is today? September the 14th, 2025, or 2025. Exactly 94 years today, on September 14th, 1931, a group of 17 men and women met in a modest apartment in Norfolk for the purpose of forming a group to study information received through the psychic forces of Edgar Cayce. So, Mrs. Cayce was the reading's conductor. I want you to imagine that we're in the room with them now. So close your eyes. I'm going to give the suggestion that was given to Mr. Cayce. Mrs. Cayce gave the suggestion. You will have before you the group gathered in this room who desire as a group to be guided through these forces as to how they may best be a channel in presenting to the world the truth and the light needed. You will answer the questions which this group will ask. Mr. Cayce replied, yes, we have the group, as gathered here, seeking to be a channel that they as a group, as individuals, may be and give the light to the waiting world. And that's what the reading said that the A.R.E. was supposed to do. Bring help and hope to the waiting world. That's what this organization is founded on doing. I was reading the bulletin prior to coming up here, and it talks about the light, and I was so excited because that's a theme that you'll be hearing here. So, who were these people who showed up? Who were these 17 men and women? Well, you'll notice some familiar names and some unfamiliar names. They were Edgar Cayce and his wife Gertrude, Gladys Davis, his stenographer for 23 years, Mr. and Mrs. Barrett, who donated the apartment where they met, Mrs. Black, Hugh Lynn Cayce, a student at the time, Mildred Davis, Gladys's sister, the sisters Edith and Florence Edmonds, Mrs. Freeman, Hannah Miller, Mrs. Morrow, Mr. and Mrs. Rossborough, Helen Story, and Esther Wynne. They were housewives and teachers, businessmen, a student, and a year later, a tugboat captain joined them. The group swelled when Mr. Cayce's fathers and sisters visited, and any sincere seeker was welcome to sit in. So guests who came in for readings stayed for the group meeting, and the Cayce family friends flowed in, and David and Lucille Kahn popped in on their visits from New York whenever they were in town. In the 11 years that followed, those 17 original group members were winnowed down to just 12 regular study group members. The main compilers of the material that resulted from the study were three: school teacher Esther Wynne, steno Gladys Davis, who could write everything in shorthand, and student Hugh Lynn Cayce. They became the scribes and the translators for the text that was called A Search for God. And I want to show it to you. Jerry was kind enough to put everything out here, so I'm probably going to demolish it. But book 1, book 2, and book 3 were given. Now, most people don't know much about book 3 because it wasn't completed. And just this Congress, we put together a little booklet of just book 3. 7 readings, 4 chapters, and the 3 titles of the first 3 chapters were given by Mr. Cayce. But the 4th chapter, the members of the study group made suggestions and put all the names in a hat, and they drew it out. And they drew out Hugh Lynn's suggestion, and it was called This Day Choose Thou for the 4th chapter. So I'm in a group right now that's studying book 3, and we have several groups, half a dozen around the country who are starting to work with this material. Hugh Lynn thought it was important to get it out because most people didn't even know it existed. Now, these are the original readings, 130 of them for book 1, 2, and 3. So some groups, when they finish studying these books, then go through the original readings. You get a lot of history that way. The compilers winnowed out extraneous material, but you get to know the members of the group because you see the questions that they asked. And I'll come to this in a little bit. Get my glasses back on. Okay, so it took the group 3 years to complete 12 chapters in book 1 because the source, Mr. Cayce's source, refused to give materials for the next chapter until every member of the group had practiced the principles in the chapter they were currently studying. So they couldn't go forward until they lived the material. They had written homework assignments in those days, and Ruth Lenore, who came later into the prayer group, took those assignments very seriously. She would grumble about people who were late turning in their homework. She was keeping count. She later became the first prayer group secretary to the Glad Helpers Healing Prayer Group. And it was revealed in her life reading that she had had a lifetime with the Master. And that's interesting because when Edgar Cayce met her, he recognized her at some soul level, and he personally invited her to come to the Glad Helpers Healing Prayer Group. And that was different. The group had already started. She was a new person thrust in the middle. Everybody said, "Who is this?" Mr. Cayce knew what he was doing, and she was dogged. Some of you have read her book, which took her whole life to write. When the final trumpet is sounded, she used to come into our office at the A.R.E., wander in with a piece of paper and say to us, "What do you think of this title?" She was going to call it "When a Sower Went Forth," and then she changed at the last minute. But anyway, applying this material in our own life is the very thing that sets aside the Cayce study groups, in my opinion, and distinguishes them from therapy groups, discussion groups, or book clubs. Not only writing out their disciplines, they had to write out everything that they did in the group and turn it in. And they also committed to pray for each member of the group every single day at a given time. So they were building a group consciousness, a group energy. Examples of group members' experience in this book are footnoted at the bottom of the pages. You can see something that says PE, which means personal experience. If it says PR, it means psychic reading. So a reading was referenced in that particular chapter. Later, author Harmon Brough, whom we all loved, would say that the study groups were, quote, "a kind of group therapy program with God." I love that. And that the texts were anonymously published handbooks for personal growth. They've also been called lessons on soul development that utilize universal laws. I asked Hughlin Cayce and Gladys Davis Turner if members of the first study group did become more psychic, because they started the group in order to learn to do what Mr. Cayce did, they thought. And so they both told me independently, yes, every member of the group became more intuitive, more sensitive, more psychic of the soul, more open to guidance. And if psychic is of the soul, it simply means that we're listening to our soul and following through. We're taking that guidance for real. So what happened to these people? Well, some became dream specialists. Some became teachers of the work. Some became interpreters of the work. Some became healers. According to Gladys and Hughlin, everybody grew in spirit. So if it took them 3 years to do book 1 and 8 years to complete book 2, then they were ready to get it published. And remember, they had to sandwich the study group readings in between all the requests for life readings and health readings that were being asked of Mr. Cayce. So they had to take their readings when they could get them. They went to Richmond to publish the book, William Byrd Press, in 1942, and the readings said, "Make it special." So burgundy book cover, cloth cover, hardback, gold lettering. The readings themselves did not want this just to be some old book that's thrown out there. It should be special. And the book 3 information began in March 1940, but they abandoned it in July 42, because Mr. Cayce's schedule was getting so full. People in the war years were missing their children, their spouses in the war, and they were just inundating the Cayces with requests for readings. So the group decided to put it aside. Group members must have been amazed that 130 readings later, they had become midwives, if you will, to a body of work that slowly became a template for soul growth to thousands of people around the world. I remember going to Gladys Davis Turner's Monday night study group when she invited me as a brand new employee, knew nothing about A.R.E. or the work or anything. And I go into the meeting across the street from the A.R.E. and I open up the book, and the first sentence in the book was like a bombshell. It said, "Try living the precepts of this book. And I almost dropped it. I went, this is serious. This is serious business. And of course it has been. I've tried to do that for the 50 or so years that I've been involved in this work. I know and love this material, and I have a good helper on the back row over here who is head of our study group now and prayer group coordinating, and that's Savannah. So anybody who's interested in anything to do with those groups can see her, and she will let you know what's available. I'm going to skim a little bit and let you know what's available too, because we have in-person and online groups. You're all welcome to attend. And we have a Monday group from 4 to 5, Wednesday night 6:15 to 7:30, Thursday comparative study group 2 to 3, lunchtime Friday group from 12:30 to 1:30. So we've got you covered. Whatever your schedule is, we should be able to help. And then the online groups, they're a little more diversified. We have a lot of Search for God groups, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But we also have Study of Egypt for you Egyptophiles. There's a lot of them. Dreams, we have a dream group that we're working on, interpreting our dreams. We have a Bible study using your own and our own Robert Krasinski's Edgar Cayce's story of the Bible as our text. We have a study of the Revelation, a study of Atlantis and Lemuria. We have the World Affairs Peace Group that Corinne Cayce and I started when Ukraine was invaded, because we thought the A.R.E. should have a response to prayer. And so that's what we did. And that's Thursday morning from 11 to 12 online. So we can get you in there. Let me know, or Vanna know, what you want. And then we have special study of the work readings, 116 readings given by Mr. Cayce on the work, what it should do, how it should be carried out. And we have one for the members of A.R.E., members and friends, I would say, and then one for staff. And Corinne and I co-host that as well. So the first study group, Norfolk number 1, for the newly created Association for Research and Enlightenment, gave birth to a group within a group. The Glad Helpers Healing Prayer Group on October 5th, 1931, just a month after they started the first study group with this material. Mr. Cayce had a dream that he shared with the study group people, and in the dream, he was told to start a prayer group, a healing prayer group, to back up the study group people as they were working on their stuff. And he was even given the names of 7 people to be in the group. So 7 of those people were in the study group. So they continued their study of this material, and they began to form the nucleus of what we now know as the Glad Helpers. And I'm looking around the room, and I see people that have been in and are prayerful, Ellen Cayce, other people in this room that have promoted prayer for all these years. Thank you. Thank you. So what we found out is that those 7 people, guess what, had been with Edgar Cayce in an earlier lifetime in Egypt when they were working with the Temple Beautiful and the Temple of Healing. They already had healing tendencies. So Mr. Cayce, wasn't it convenient that they all managed to incarnate, make their way to Virginia Beach, be in position for Mr. Cayce to then tap them to start the Glad Helpers Healing Prayer Group? I love it that Gladys Davis Turner had the sense, good sense and presence of mind to study stenography, so that when she was 21 years old and Mr. Cayce needed a stenographer, there she was. She was ready to do the work. And I think we all do that in our lives. We're not aware of it maybe, but we come ready to hit the ground running. So this is the prayer group readings. These are 65 readings in this book. 42 of them are on prayer healing. And they are things like teaching people who were doing the prayer, who were the channels, where to place their hands, how to actually do this physical healing. And now these days with COVID, our in-person group uses etheric healing. So we are working with the aura, the energy around the body. We're not touching people per se at this point. So, but they were in those days, and there were tremendous testimonials of healing, children, people of all ages. And of course, you know that when the hospital operated for a couple of years, people came from around the world because their doctors had given up on them. And they came in, some on stretchers, and they walked out. Mr. Cayce said that that was one of the happiest times of his life. From the book, There is a River, on Edgar Cayce's life, to see those people come in and to see them walk out. He talked about a girl who came in on crutches and went out without them. So, all right, I get ahead of myself here. I did think this all through and have it all follow itself. So, I told you that there are 42 readings in here. Well, what are the rest of the readings? 11 of them are on the endocrine system, which we know the 7 chakras or endocrine glands are very important in the process of meditation and our health. And also, there are 12 readings in there on that incomprehensible book of the Revelation. Anybody ever try to read that? Did it make any sense to you? Not at first to me. But when I came to the A.R.E., I was lucky enough to get into Everett Irian's Revelation group. And man, he made sense. And Mr. Cayce said that it's not gobbledygook, it's talking about the process of meditation in the body. So all of the symbols, the 7 lights or the 7 chakras, and he explained it in a way. And Gladys said, I went to Sunday school my whole life, but I never understood the Bible till I went to Mr. Cayce's Bible group. And so he had a way of making it make sense. Those Bible notes from the Bible classes are available. You can download them from the web, the A.R.E. Website. So just so you know if you're interested. And of course, Robert Krajinski did a great job of working with the Bible notes and the readings to put that book of his together. So did you know that the Glad Helpers pray 4 times a day, morning, noon, sunset, and evening? And you can ask for prayers for yourself or anybody for any time. And the catch is, you have to pray with us. That's the deal. If you're asking for prayers, you've got to be willing to put some skin in the game. And that means that if you want to pray, if you pray in the morning and we put them on the morning list, you're there with us. And we also have categories for people who've passed on. And of course, people who are unable to ask for prayers, like young children or people in a coma. Somebody takes responsibility for them and prays for that person. So, everybody's invited to attend the Glad Helpers group, and if you haven't been, how many people have been? See some hands, good. If you've been to the Glad Helpers prayer group, it's a wonderful experience. They used to meet in Ruth Lenore's apartment on the 3rd floor of the old hospital building when she lived up there, and that, you could go in there and feel the energy. Then when the new building was built, 50 years ago, they moved to the upstairs, the little meditation room that was built as a PS. There wasn't enough money, actually, to put a meditation room on. And so when Jim Dixon, who was an architect from Texas, heard about it, he said, Texans will raise the money and I will draw the plans. And he did. And so now we have a meditation room that is wonderful. The woman who did the stained glass windows in the room is a famous artist who did the windows in the Washington Cathedral. Her name is Frederica Fields, and she had a reading from Edgar Cayce when she was a child, just a few months old. Of course, she never saw it for years. She pulled it out as an adult and was amazed because the reading said that she would create a new form of stained glass. And sure enough, she did, because she contracted arthritis and she couldn't lift the heavy sheets of stained glass. So she created tubes of stained glass, which she then put together to create the patterns that you'll see in those windows when you go up to the 3rd floor. So that, I was there when the windows were dedicated, when we opened that building in '75, and she was there, this tiny little artistic, beautiful person, married to this very tall Army general who was wearing all of his insignia. So they were there in the meditation room while we were dedicating it, and it was so lovely. So I invite you to come, and it's every Tuesday from 3 to 5. You just have to show up and go up. Take the elevator to the 3rd floor in the conference room. If you can't make Tuesdays from 3 to 5, go online. For years they met on Wednesday. It was always Wednesday morning, and it still is online, 9:30 to 11:30. And so when you get in the groove of wanting to study some of this healing, or even just feel that, because they do the laying on of hands online. And you know, when we went online, I wondered if it would work. Could I meditate online? Guess what? I've had a couple of the best meditations, and they've been in groups online. Never knew they were coming, of course, you never know, but it happens. So I would invite you to talk to Vanna about the times, and we'll give you the information, and you'll be there to go. So there were a lot of surprises, as you might imagine, that happened in those early days. While they were working on Search for God in chapter 8, the open door, and then chapter 9, in his presence, the group had a visitor, a heavenly messenger, if you will, who came through Mr. Cayce's readings, reading -27, -28, -29, and -33. And the dash comes after 262, because those are the Search for God series readings number. So 4 readings. The Archangel Michael arrived, and he arrived with a bang. He's called the Lord of the Way, the Angel of the North, and of Wisdom. And he was described in the readings as, quote, the guard of the change that comes in every soul that seeks the way. And he came through thunderously. Gladys said that when he came through, Mr. Cayce's voice became more commanding. It was still his voice. Nobody took him over, but the voice was different. So she wrote everything in caps. So I want you to close your eyes again. I'm going to give you a little taste of Michael, okay? He made his first appearance September the 4th, 1932, a year after the group had begun. And this is what he said. Be still, my children, bow your heads, that the Lord of the way may make known unto you that have been chosen for a service in this period when there is the need of that Spirit being made manifest in the earth, that the way may be known to those that seek the light. And that reading ended with these words, he stands at the door of your own conscience, that you may be aware that the scepter has not departed from Israel, nor have his ways been in vain. Today, if you will listen, the way is open. I, Michael, call on thee. So, in reading 262-28, question 12, they ask Mr. Cayce, what is the relationship between Michael, the Lord of the Way, and Christ, the Way? Michael is an archangel that stands before the throne of the Father, God. Christ is the Son, the way to the Father, and one that came into the earth as man, the Son of Man, that man might have access to the Father, hence the way. Michael is the Lord or the guard of the change that comes in every soul that seeks the way, even as in those periods when his manifestation came in the earth. After which Michael came through again and said, don't get in the way of your brothers. I'm paraphrasing. Make known that love, that glory, the power in his name, and don't be afraid, because I, Michael, have spoken. When Gladys took that down, she made a note that whenever he appeared, the group was visibly shaken. One time they all left the room, nobody spoke, they just all got up and went out. One time they cried after he had given his message to them. So she said, tears, silence, and beautiful attunement followed the above reading. Edgar Cayce had a vision during the reading. He had to leave the room a while because he said he saw every person in the room as they were and as they could be. How about that? In the final appearance of Michael to the group in December 32, they were studying the book In His Presence, in God's Presence, when question 9 was asked by Gertrude Cayce, is there a message for the group at this time? And they thought Mr. Cayce would give a message, as he usually did. No, Michael came in very strongly, and he said, bow down your heads, O you that would seek his presence, be strong in his might, falter not at your own weak self, know that your Redeemer liveth, and may this day make known in your own heart his presence abiding with you. Root from your body and your consciousness anything that would hinder his entering in, for he would sup with thee. Will you be one with him? The way which I guard leads to that of glory in the might of the Lord. I, Michael, would guide thee. Do not disobey, do not falter. Thou knowest the way. And then Mr. Cayce said, we are through. So why am I focusing on the history of this good work? And why am I taking us back to the beginning of the creation of A.R.E. study groups and prayer group? Because in 1931, Mr. Cayce's life ground to a standstill. The Depression of '29 and beyond had wiped out everything that he'd ever dreamed of. The 30-bed Hospital of Enlightenment was gone. The people who'd come there, medical practitioners who trusted in the readings and were giving that information to the patients, they were gone. The building was returned to Morton and Edwin Blumenthal, the backers who had put up the money for it. And so the Cayces gave up their house that Morton had given them, and they moved into a rental house across the street from the A.R.E. So every day Mr. Cayce got to look at his beloved building shuttered. And he was so low. Gladys said when he was low, everybody was lower than a worm's belly, to quote her. And so they knew they had to do something, because a reading came through Mr. Cayce, and it said, if you don't make use of him here and now, we have work for him to do on the other side. Well, you bet that woke him up. And that's why they asked him to come to Norfolk to give that reading that began a series of 130 readings, followed by 65 readings that really galvanized Mr. Cayce's life, saved his life, and helped all of the people in all of the groups. So who can say what motivated those people to decide to ask for that series of readings? But we're here, say the readings in Virginia Beach, where we're supposed to be working to bring help and hope into the lives of many. The motto is over the door to the conference center. When you go up there, it's from a work reading, 254-42, that we may make manifest our love for God and all of humankind. That is the work of the association. That is our work here in the earth. When I came to the A.R.E. in 1968 and asked Hugh Lynn Cayce and my boss, Harold Allen, who was Eula Allen's husband and had gotten 3 readings from Mr. Cayce, what is this organization? Harold told me simply, this is a service organization, a helping organization. And Hugh Lynn added a caveat, never forget that we are first and foremost a hospital. We are a hospital. People come to us in pain. And today, we have a guy who's in our Friday group who arrived and announced to the group that he was an atheist. And today, he is our resident Bible scholar in that group. He has made a full circle. No one condemned him. No one said anything except, come in, welcome. And so when he did, he began to study and he made the changes. Baba Ram Dass has said famously that we're all just walking each other home. Isn't that the truth? We're all walking each other home. So I'm going to end with a poem, and this is one you might recognize. This is a beautiful Mary Oliver poem, and it accentuates the theme of what I've tried to present this morning. So it's called The Journey. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your shoulders and your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their terrible melancholy was terrible, and it was already late enough and a wild night. The road was full of fallen branches and stones, but little by little, you left those voices behind. The stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Thank you. Thank you.